Hi, this is Cathleen de Ontiveros, and today we're going to talk about basic sewing supplies. When you first start sewing and you walk into a fabric store, it can be really overwhelming. You're seeing aisle after aisle of all of these notions and supplies, and you think you need all of them or you want all of them, and you really only need a few basic items. The first most important when working with fabric is a good pair of fabric scissors. There are many brands. Just make sure that you only use them for fabric, not to cut through paper or wire or foam or any of your other craft things. Only fabric. I prefer the Fiskars with the spring handle because it doesn't hurt my hand or make my hands tired when I'm cutting through a lot of fabric in a day. Must have a measuring tape and a seam ripper. No matter how many years you've been sewing, you're always going to need a seam ripper from time to time. I like to have my sewing gauge for doing my hems and helping to adjust patterns. My baby diaper pin when pulling through elastic or cording on my sewing projects. The safety tip helps to keep it from coming undone as it's pulling the elastic through, and I don't end up poking myself that way. An assortment of hand sewing needles is really important to have because there's always something, a button that needs to be sewn on or a hem that needs to be sewn, something that requires a hand sewing needle. So it's always good to have an assortment of sewing needles in your kit. Tailors Chalk is a favorite of mine for marking fabric. I tend to mark all of my patterns that I make directly onto my fabric rather than make a paper pattern for them, and it brushes off or it washes off, so I really love Tailors Chalk. Scotch tape. I keep a couple rolls in my kit at all times. I'm either making my patterns or adjusting a store-bought pattern, and Scotch tape is a must-have. I don't have a serger, so I use an overcast foot when I'm not using a couture finish on my sewing projects. This was a few dollars off of one of the online stores, and it's really a very wonderful tool to have if you do not have a serger. My magnet base and my quilting pens. I love to use quilting pens when sewing because they are longer and very colorful, so it is difficult to miss them when I'm sewing and sew over the pen, and they're also easy to grab because they're longer. When I use patterns, I do not pin the pattern to the fabric. I like to use butter knives. I collect these from thrift stores and I use them as pattern weights. You can also use industrial bolts or washers, colorful stones, a variety of things. I have always used butter knives though, and they are my preference. I keep a couple of rulers. I keep a straight ruler for making my patterns, and I also keep a Tailors ruler with the hip curve. I use this all the time. This one has seen better days, you can see with the tape. If you have any questions about supplies or would like to share with me what your favorite supplies are, please leave a comment down below. You can also message me through YouTube. I have the links in the comments for my Facebook sewing group as well as my website, which will link you to everything else I do, my online stores, my charity work, etc. I hope that this has helped you in making your transition into sewing a happy one. So thank you, happy sewing, and blessings everyone.